Hi, Scott. How are you?
Hey, I'm good. I've got my coffee.
Ooh, I've got my Coke.
Okay, ready to do this?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay.
So
Well,
you went to a pretty cool session in at NCTE that you just raved about, and I wish I'd gone to it. Will you tell us what that was about?
yeah. So the session I went to, it was the whole NCTE had a theme of lighthouses, and this one was mini mentor texts as lighthouses for our students. And I feel like we've been doing mentor texts since before I was a teacher. I know I did it when I was a teacher. Um, but I don't know why I feel like it's just kind of we lost some sight, or maybe it was too big. And I love the fact that they made this mini, so it's super digestible. It's basically like a sentence to a paragraph, and tons of resources. Like there's like this book here. This one's awesome. Tons of just great resources and things that are already built out there. But I loved how flexible it is and accessible for students. It's just super cool.
Yeah, and you were so excited about it. And then when I went down to the convention floor, Penny Kittle was signing this book, Micro Mentor Text.
Yep.
So we came back from NCTE with three different books that don't just talk about micro texts or mentor texts and how to do it. They actually give really specific examples and how to's.
But you got to be careful because these are published before certain people do certain things. And so their very first one in this one is Kanye West.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how you feel. I know I would probably skip that one and maybe use the other stuff. So it wouldn't be like, hey, this is canned and I can just do it. I'd still look at who they're using, just to make sure we're not, I don't know, just
Yeah.
save yourself.
Got to be careful, right?
Unfortunately.
So, for this bite-sized PD, we thought it'd be really great to share about mentor texts. So,
Yeah. So we're actually double dipping because this is a bite-sized PD. And if you see this guy right here, that's a microphone. So this is a bite-sized PD / all day ELA podcast.
yeah, work smarter, not harder, right?
We'll see how this works out. We're always trying new things. So let me go ahead. I'll share my screen and we're just going to kind of jam through this. It's not going to be just us chit chatting the whole time. So as always with Zoom, how does it look? Leslie, can you just see my screen?
Yep, it looks good.
Okay. So I would consider this a part one. And really, I think the first thing before we can get into mentor texts is teaching kids how to read like writers. And we're going to go through just kind of one example and just some of the rationale behind it. And then provide at the end tons of examples. And if you had a chance to participate in the 30-day writing habit, then there are a ton of examples there as well. I have a folder that I'll send out that has all 30 days, PDFs of all 30 days for you.
All right.
Yeah.
So first, Scott, will you start out with what are mentor texts?
Yeah, so mentor texts, if we go in here, mentor texts are basically models of writing where it's a professional writer, you take a piece of their writing and you show that to students or you use that yourself, and you imitate it. We learn best through imitation. And so you say, okay, how can I use that in my own writing? And that might be a big piece of writing. I know when when I've done longer pieces of writing and I was training myself to learn how to be, certain styles of writer, I would use those. So that's what a mentor text is. But a mini mentor text, again, is where you just pop that thing down into like one sentence. Let's just look at this one sentence. What's the author doing? And how can we do that in our own writing if we want to do that in our own writing?
Okay. So what do mentor texts do? Like, why would I use a mentor text versus, or especially a mini mentor text versus just jumping right into writing?
Yeah. Well, first off, there are so many voices out there and so many unique ways to do something. I think if any, and we'll get into ChatGPT later, but if there's anything that's exposed for me or us in our conversations that we've had, it's that ChatGPT can't do voice. And if we look at as many different styles of writing from real authors, we can get to see their voice, we can imitate it, and then we can start to use it in our own writing and turn it into our own voice. I don't mean stealing or lifting. I mean just how we learn, where it's like, okay, I'm going to do it in that way, but now I'm going to tweak it and make it my own. So there are a lot of things that they do. One, it gives us tons of resources we can use with our students. We're reading every day. You're reading online, you're reading sports, you're reading your books. If you start reading with that eye, you're going to see like, oh my God, that's a cool sentence. And you start keeping that sentence down, or that's a cool paragraph, and you put that down. So those are some of the things. And on the screen here, you can see there are 4 pieces of that type. But I think that's the biggest benefit of these like mini mentor texts is just the accessibility for students. If you're hitting them with a giant mentor text, let's say I could do 10 of those. I'm just throwing an arbitrary number out there, but let's just say I could do 10 of those. If I'm doing a mini mentor text, I could do 100 of those. And there's a good chance I'm going to hit a kid where they are, or really tap into something that's their voice if I'm at some point or another. So
well, there's such a variety,
yeah,
right? And to show that good writing is not just one way of writing.
Yeah. One of the things I really love, and we'll get to that in a minute here, but about the way that they presented the mini mentor text too, is the student ownership of certain things. It's kind of fun, but I'll show you. So I think I wanted to do an analogy, and so I'll be real quick on this. But I think when we think about our students and we think about reading like a writer, often we spend time reading like a reader. And I know that, when I was a kid, this is the 80s, I believe, this is dating me. But we used to have these and we'd stare at them for way too long until you got a headache. And then you would see the hidden image that's in there. And I knew people who could look at it right away and they'd immediately see the image. I unfortunately wasn't one of those people. So it might take weeks, not of literally staring at it, but of staring at it and then try again, stand upside down, on my head, one eye open, whatever it might be. And then I would see it. And so I see this as an analogy for learning to read like a writer, because I think our students, it's something that has to be deliberate. It can't just be like, oh, well, you're a writer, go look for how they do this. It's got to be teaching them how to see the other image in the magic eye. So there's what the author's saying, and then there's what the author's doing, and it's really honing in on what the author's doing. And so that's the analogy.
Yeah, and it takes perseverance, I think. So fun fact, I was also one of those people who could never see these. And they used to print them in the newspaper. Do you remember that?
Yep.
And I framed the first one I was ever actually able to see. So it was quite an accomplishment.
Well, once you see it, you can't unsee it.
Yeah.
So it's almost like once we train our kids to read like writers, they have it. It just doesn't go away.
It gets faster. Like each time you see it quicker and quicker.
Yeah. Well, there's the other things too, like the person who said the KFC guy, and they said his necktie looks like a little miniature body. And now every time I see the KFC guy when I'm driving by, it looks like this little body on this giant head now. So, but anyway.
I love it.
So this comes actually straight out of this book right here, which these were the presenters, and it's a great text. But I really love their framework. So they basically had 4 steps to reading like a writer. One is to notice the move a writer makes. So to analyze it, think about it. What's this person doing craft wise? And then 2, I loved it, is to give the writerly move a name. We may know what it is. It may be like an afro or whatever it might be, but the kids might call it something, like over and over again or whatever, and one I really like is like when there's a buildup, which we'll see in a minute, and it goes to like this boom at the end, like a short, succinct, almost slap in the face kind of a sentence. And the lady was saying that her kids named that one Mic Drop. Yeah. So it's kind of fun because then now the kids are kind of owning it. We have names for it, but that's fine. I think,
and it will help them remember it.
Yeah.
Well, and is it more important that they can name it, or more important that they can use it in writing?
I think use it. In my memory bank, if I'm a kid, well, whoever I am, whatever, as a writer, I'm going to remember Mic Drop more than whatever. I don't even know what the technical term is for it, but Mic Drop is stuck in my head. And I'll be like, when I write, I got to make this a really strong point right here that's succinct.
Yeah.
Mic Drop. So the third is to come up with a theory about why the writer did this. And that's where I think there's going to be a lot of think aloud with students, with the teacher being the expert in the room. And then sort of having them do think alouds with it too. But why do you think they did this? What's their intent here?
To really help teach that writing, really good professional writing, is not by happenstance. It
Right.
didn't accidentally happen that way.
Right, right. I think that's huge too in today's kind of crazy um book banning, short story banning world. What's the one called? I forget. It's the potato famine one. Oh, I love that. I love it's an article. It's like he's
Oh.
going off saying we should eat the children. Do you remember?
Oh, Thomas Paine's.
Oh, what is that called? And you guys are probably like, you all have it on the top of your heads, but tell us, email us what it is. I'm probably going to look it up after this anyway. But to look at that and say, what's the theory? Why did Thomas Paine do this? It's sarcasm. He's going over the top on purpose to show this. Might head that off, and then instead of having parents calling me and saying, I can't believe you're teaching my kid to eat children. It's like, that's not what he's saying. That's not what the author's doing. He's using a technique for a point. And then the last one is to try it. And that's probably the second, or one of the big ones is try it in your own work. Give it a shot. Maybe you'll like it. So
we're going to run through an example, and I'm going to be the student, and I didn't bring a pencil today to class. So, I'm going to use my phone. So.
All right. So this is from an article that I'll link into this slideshow when we put it up there. And this might be right here where I would teach my kids how to write a claim. And so, or even a thesis. I mean, I guess it depends on where we are, but this is an example of the mic drop. And so the first thing would be to notice something about the writing. So I might show this. First off, I'm just going to do it. I'm going to model it over and over with my students, but let's just say we've already done that. Okay. So I'm going to have my students read it. So Leslie's just reading it.
Make no mistake, this is a book about death.
What do you notice, Leslie?
Well, it's a pretty strong statement. There's no middle ground. There's no gray area. So whatever book she's talking about, someone's going to die, and probably multiple people are going to die.
Right. What else do you notice about this? And what do you notice about that first part where it says, make no mistake?
Well, it's almost like she's addressing maybe doubts, like I might not believe her. So she's trying to convince me, I think.
Yeah. Kind of using a phrase that's somewhat common and then, this is this. So what would I've already named it mic drop, or someone else, a kid did that I'm stealing, but what would you name this? Now I give my kids time to discuss, partner, or whatever group.
I know. I wish I was like a more creative person. I would probably just call it a strong statement.
Strong statements. All right. Why do you think, Natalie, we haven't read the article, and we might, but the whole point of it being mini and keeping it short. Why do you think Natalie Zutler wrote this way, this sentence? Make no mistake, this is a book about death.
I think she wants you to know that people are going to die, and that's maybe not the point. I think the point is like the journey or all the things that happen to get to that point, so I think sometimes we read things and we're hoping that everything will work out in the end, but she tells us right away, nope, don't, make no mistake, people are going to die in this book. So you get that out of the way, and maybe we can focus on other things that get them there.
Okay. So then that might be a good point to say, okay, so if you want to get the big idea out of the way so you can hone in on the other aspects of a novel, then this might be a good one to copy, right?
Yeah.
And so then you might have my students go in and say, they don't even have to use the words make no mistake. It just might be a phrase that's strong, but this is about boom, right? And so then I would say, go try it in your own work. And they try it, we'd share, we'd probably take some examples and put them up for everybody.
I thought of one. I thought of an example real quick.
Yeah.
If I were going to do this like about myself, because that's the easiest thing I think for kids to think about themselves first when they're first trying things out, I could say, there's no doubt about it, I would rather be quilting right now.
See, I love that. And you've got the pattern, right?
Yeah.
It's succinct. It's kind of got like that intro, comma, boom. So
yeah.
All right. Sorry, I like to make sound effects.
I love it. I wish we had a sound effect machine here.
So I might show them a couple more exhibits actually before they start, just to show that this doesn't have to be exactly like that. It's a style. The strong statement is a style. So another one is from Livia Gankley in The Atlantic, and I'll link the entire piece in as well later. But fledgling is at heart about an individual reconciling who she is with how she looks and learning to use her considerable power responsibly. So again, we've kind of got that intro, and then this is it. Boom.
Yeah.
And the next one, I think it's the same lady, but in both its incarnations, All Too Well is a song about the weaponization of memory. So, and I know the first time you saw that, what do you have to say, Leslie?
I said, ooh, that's harsh, but very accurate for most of Taylor Swift's songs,
Right.
especially early on in her career. And I'm a fan of Taylor Swift, but yeah, she weaponizes her memory. And if you need another example, the one about Bad Blood,
Oh,
right?
even I know that one. That's so now I might go into sort of some guiding questions with my students and say, where could you simply state this text is about? When would you even want to do that? Sometimes you want to be you want to be a little bit more long-winded, and sometimes you want to be like super tight and succinct. Where do you want to make a simple, powerful statement about your big idea? Would you only use this in the beginning with a claim thesis? Or could this be a really good last sentence to use? You've done all your persuading or all of your describing, and then you go, make no mistake, this is about death. Boom, done.
Yeah.
Like drop. And then where else could you simplify your main idea? So, this might even go into topic sentences, but that's, again, I think students thinking about the craft and where this style, this mic drop or this strong statement might best fit.
Yeah.
So the next then is kind of backing up a little bit, because we said talking to students about reading like a writer. And so, as we said, this has to be deliberate. And I think what you want to do is you also want it to be collaborative.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to read like a writer. All right, guys, let's and ladies, gentlemen, what are the things that we're going to do? How is it similar to or different than the ways you read in science class, or the ways that you read, say, music, in orchestra, or even in history class? What does reading like a writer look like in ELA? But if I am history, I might say, how is it different to read in history than it is in ELA? Because you can use this in any discipline. That's the beauty of it. What kinds of choices do you make as a writer that readers might identify? So people have moves and they start to use them. It's almost like musicians. And when they use those moves, you can kind of see. And I know any teacher who's taught writing, I've said this before, but it's like, I think by October, I could tell who my students were without seeing names, just by their writing.
Yeah.
I could see them in that. And that's another hit against ChatGPT, because you can't see a kid or anybody through that.
Right.
It's we'll get to more of that later. And then the next is sort of like, is there anything you notice about the essay you'd like to try on your own? What's the technique? When would you plan to use it? And then what are some different ways you can learn about the context of a text before you read it? Like today, we didn't do any context, but it would have been cool, I think, if Leslie maybe had given some context about the Taylor Swift song and some of the rest. And then we looked at what this author had to say.
Yeah.
And then moved forward even more. But again, many moves I could see this being something I just want to spend 10 to 15 minutes on, maybe 10 minutes or less a day.
Yeah. And I think that short time helps kids be successful repeatedly, right? Like they can be successful every time you do this. So we have a really great example and resource for you. I'm going to share my screen because the sound is running through my computer. I just realized that. So let me share my screen. Here. So, Scott, when he went to the session, found this amazing, she shared this amazing resource, and she called it Mini Moves for Writers. So she has a website. It's linked in the quick start guide, but these are active links that you can go to. And basically this quick start guide, sorry, I need to move my Zoom bar. It's a PDF that you can download that will basically go through how you can do this in a variety of different ways, and gives you really specific examples, different techniques. So we really recommend downloading this and trying it out. And then she shows you how to use these mini moves, and she's created all these YouTube videos, right? We're not going to reinvent the wheel with something that's done amazingly well. So,
and all the videos are around somewhere between 5 to 10-ish minutes.
mhm.
And in the videos, she's showing that specific skill you want to hone in on. So let's, I have my students write a piece, and then I realize, oh my gosh, they're really struggling with in-text citations. I can go in here, and she has a 5 to 10 minute on in-text citations where there are mini mentor texts, and then she teaches it as though you would teach it. So you could almost use what she has as a model for how you might want to do it with your kids.
Yeah. So I really liked, I'm trying to find it here. Oh, okay. It's this one. Oh, no, this one. Subvert your reader's expectations with a not this, but that claim. So that's an advanced way of writing a claim statement or a thesis statement. So we're just going to click in here real quick. Let me turn on my volume.
Big idea. Grammarly's tone suggestions can help pitch it with confidence.
We love the ads. We love the ads.
Sometimes when we're writing a claim or a thesis statement, we find that something expected, something perhaps that's been said about this text before, isn't exactly the thing that we want to say. In fact, what we want to say is kind of unexpected. In these situations, there is a special writing move that can really help us. Today's move is a not this, but that claim. Let's take a look at a not this, but that claim by Anna Kamen-Patti, writing for the New York Times. All My Rage isn't a book about food necessarily, but Tahir's care and attention to South Asian meals is one of many aspects in her latest novel that show the importance of feeling connected to home.
Okay, can we pause for a second to talk about how short that example was and current from the New York Times? We know that that's an excellent source of quality writing.
Mm-hmm.
So when I read this, something I notice is that she begins by naming the text and then says something it isn't. All My Rage isn't a book about food. Now, this might be what the reader was expecting to hear. And so when she says it isn't about food, it's sort of raising the reader's awareness. They're like, if it's not about food, what is it about? And then she tells us. But Tahir's care and attention to South Asian meals is one of many aspects of her latest novel that show the importance of feeling connected to home. So All My Rage isn't a book about food, but it is about the importance of feeling connected to home.
So when
This is a really
pause. So when I watched that for the first time, I was thinking of how many of our students get to high school, and when we ask them to talk about theme, they can't identify the theme, they identify the topic. So the book is about food, it's about Asian meals, but the theme is actually her connection to home.
Yeah.
And that's, so I saw like, oh, this is a literary lesson. I could use it in a literary lesson and in an informational essay or an argument or literary analysis essay. I could see multiple ways that we could use this.
I love that. That's cool.
So there's still more to the video, but she walks through her steps of the 4 questions that Scott mentioned before. So these are great. I could totally see a teacher doing this in class, like watching her and then doing it in your own class yourself, making it your own.
Mm-hmm.
But for all of those students who missed class that day, send them the YouTube video.
Yeah. There you go. It's great. And there's so many out there. So, I'd love to hear how you're using them. If you decide to use them.
Yeah.
And I know everyone's pressed for time, and it's hard to get kind of some job embedded PD this year, especially for some reason, but here you go. It's a quick resource, quick tip, and extremely powerful, will pay dividends for our kids.
So coming soon, we're going to be talking about different mentor texts from featuring things from each of these books and resources. And then don't forget, Kelly shared with us at the beginning of the year, their Padlet for mentor texts. And these are mentor texts gathered from teachers all over the United States.
Yeah, and I would consider this this one to be kind of part one in mini mentor texts.
Yeah.
So, these are some of the topics we'll hit. I know we just wrapped up the 30-day writing challenge yesterday. So we'll talk about that in an upcoming episode and provide all those resources for you. And then just try to have as many resources as we can possibly gather or curate for you so you can use them with your students.
Yeah. So thanks for joining with us today. I've got to go finish my Coke.
I have to go heat up my coffee.
And we'll catch you next time.
Take care, everybody.
Bye.